Thank you. I'm just wondering how you see the interaction with the emergence requirement and your normative characterisation of discursive would. So you might think if you combine these two things, and maybe you'd want to resist this, you might think if you combine these two things, what you need is some bottom-up account where normativity comes from. And that's quite a tall order, right? Some people have made valiant attempts to do that.
Well, I mean, I think there's basically two straws. I agree, you need to do that. That is, you've got to show how non-discursive abilities, in the sense of abilities that individually can be exercised by non-discursive creatures, sort of uncontroversially, could be deployed together to add up to what we would count as instituting normative statuses. And that is a tall order. I take it there's basically two straws floating, or anyway, two flavors of straw, two approaches that people have. And one of them is teleosemantic, and I would point to Ruth Millikan as having the very most sophisticated version of that currently on offer, which I'll point out looks to exactly the sort of selectional, adaptational structure that the pragmatists diagnosed as being in common to evolutionary explanations and to learning, that she has very skillfully deployed precisely to underwrite normative notions. I mean, she learned from her Dr. Vater Sellers this sort of Kantian basic requirement, and the notion of proper function that she's got. It's a richly normative notion, but she's got a naturalistic root to it. And I don't think there's anything wrong in principle with that. Let's see what we can do with that notion of normativity. The alternative approach that I've pursued takes its point of departure rather from, I want to say Hegel, I'll say why in just a minute, and from the later Wittgenstein, that looks to the social articulation of a practice. I mean, Millikan gets there, but her norms are already in place before she goes to the social. But here the thought is that is the Enlightenment idea that the world didn't come with normative statuses. They're products of human interaction, of human practical attitudes, that what it is for there to be responsibility and authority is in principle unintelligible apart from practices of taking or treating each other as authoritative and responsible. So Hegel's metaphysics of normativity says normative statuses are instituted by reciprocal recognition. That's what it takes to synthesize social substance that has implicit norms. And I think something like that is right, that we have to be able to hold each other responsible, and that a certain social structure of that we can say, well, in this case, you actually are responsible. You've done this. Look, the way I understand what I'm doing, if I make a claim, so suppose I claim that this bottle top is made of copper. I've played a counter in a game that commits me to something. And what it commits me to is not up to me. It's sort of up to the people we charge with knowing about copper, who tell me, well, what else I've committed myself to? What would entitle me to that? That's the only way I can really have copper thoughts, is that there's this public significance of what I've committed myself to by being a competent English speaker. And that's the metaphysics of normativity we have to understand. Well, what are the minimal versions of that? And I think the story starts with the hominins beating each other with sticks if they get out of line, and sort of instituting that notion of how we do things, how it is to be done.
Sorry, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, but only.
Yeah.
So the way I understood the way you unpacked normativity in social terms was that you're giving kind of necessary conditions for normativity, not saying where it comes from. So I suppose my question was asking whether you're kind of pushed to adopting kind of bottom-up, Millikan approach, as well as your own
I mean, the where it comes from question is not sort of well defined as it comes out of your mouth, right? I mean, I think it's a product of practical social recognitive attitudes. It comes from our responses to each other. That's where it comes from for me. She says, well, it comes from these facts about the reproductive family of the practice that we have. I mean, I don't think the where it comes from is actually that helpful in either case, but just as she wants to describe the structure of an evolutionary chain that can lead to a proper attribution of a proper function, so the existence of a proper function, I want to describe the kind of social interaction that I say can give rise, the practical attitudes of taking or treating each other as committed, that I want to say can give rise to the actual status of being committed from these attitudes. And I think we can make sense of that much for pre-linguistic creatures. I think we can understand them as instituting commitments within their community, so that if you behave in a certain way, well, I mean, think about an entitlement. They can make it only appropriate to enter the special hut if you can show a leaf from the tree that you have to go 20 miles away to get. And that might start off with them beating you with sticks if you try and go in there without the leaf. There's going to have to be more to it, but that's the sort of way that they might begin to manifest in practice an attitude of taking or treating that as inappropriate.